when I realized who something told me is by something said, an energy love being, Aisha, also known as Aisha Cornley Brooks. Recently, something said, start back writing. One of my earliest memories of something said was about 4 or 5 years. When something said, while home alone by the way, about a man walking back and forth, looking into the living room window, watching me. When I noticed I was being watched, something said, go upstairs and watch the man walk away. Then run downstairs and sleep inside the cabinet next to the stove. So I did. One time, something said, stop, while carelessly riding my bike. This time I didn't listen. But what I'll never forget is how my bike would not allow me to pedal. As soon as I looked at the pedals for a visual inspection, I heard the loud sound of tires squealing to an abrupt stop, inches from hitting me. To sum that up, I assumed I was very lucky that day. Another time, I was warned by my mother, if she caught me staring at people while we were in the car, that I wouldn't want the end result of that pretty much. So, something told me to look at the white paint that separate the lanes on the freeway. Doing so, I would pass the do not look at people driving by test if mama looked back to make sure, and she was good at looking from the corner of her eye. So whoever told me to pretty much look down at the road just helped me ace that test. Next thing I'll never forget is hearing the song Something in My Heart playing on the radio by this lady with a super duper unique tone and a feeling I could never forget. I could never forget that song. But I would not raise my head up to make sure, looking up to take in this song I'm hearing, wouldn't be confused with staring at people. So I just listened. Next thing that would never be erased from my mind is what in the heavens happened during and listening, trying my hardest but failing to count all the white lines that seemed to all blend together. I'm freaking floating in the darkest of the darkest dark places I don't ever remember visiting before in my life. First observation. I can't see my own hands right in front of me. Okay. Second observation. I noticed while in search of my feet that I should definitely be able to see now. But where in the heck is my cotton picking body or feet, as a matter of fact? And what took the place of my body was nothing but a small yet pretty big ball of light, or whatever I was. Third observation. I was nowhere near afraid or couldn't even comprehend what fear was at that moment, considering I should have been terrified. Because in my child body, I was most definitely afraid of heights. And from my position, high was an understatement. At this point, I realized how an emotion of overwhelming joy, freedom, electrified my little big ball of light. My little big ball of light took off faster than the road runner, you hear me? And I went in all directions far beyond north, south, east, and west. Thinking about it now, with no mirror to visualize or anything else anywhere in sight, I would have promised you that somewhere in that ball of light, I had the biggest grin not possible, with skin stretched over bones. As much as it seemed like my playtime was very short, somehow it felt super forever, in a sense. Last and final observation. that blew my mind was when I noticed this deep feeling right in the middle of my little big light body that commanded my attention. And there was no more room for concern with testing out my newfound abilities to fly through pitch blackness unafraid, and or maybe as fast as the speed of light, I thought at the time. Anyway, I stopped in a direction I can't say was to my left or to my right. But right in front of me I looked. And I couldn't see anything with my seeming perfect vision. Because in my regular body, I had a little issue with one eye. All of a sudden, but the slowest moment ever recorded in forever, this mirror image of myself strolled into my field of sight. And considering that I now realized I had no right to add the title big to anything about my little speck of dust looking ass light, but this light was reminding me that sand particles look bigger than me now compared to what this giant and enormous, beautiful, magnificent, soft ball of light looked like to me and felt like. But somehow I still wasn't afraid. But all of a sudden, I felt more joy than I ever did just a moment ago when I was just free and careless and fearless. But I didn't budge from my position. Just staring in pure amazement of this magnificent being approach me directly in my little old bitty path with all this space and nothingness abundantly everywhere. Since I felt like I didn't really want to move anyway, it seemed as natural as opening a door once the knob is turned. I just allowed the beautiful, loving, best feeling ever being to run me over, if that's what its plan was. No matter how fast I could go compared to how slow it's moving along, it just felt right to be still. Well, it became pretty obvious that it wanted to run me over, as it slowly gobbled me up into it, but wasn't chewing me or crushing me. And once I was in, it was no doubt that I was a part of or inside this being. It seriously felt like the position that I was sitting in, or the place that I was floating in, somehow appeared to be right where I belong. And it felt very familiar and comfortable and at ease and at peace and loving. I couldn't tell what part was me or what part was anything for that matter. I just blended right in. And I didn't see any other ones or beings like me, but there was no doubt I could feel that they were all around me. Next thing I remember, I'm back in the back seat of the car, still staring at the ground, and that song was still on the radio. So I couldn't have been gone but for a few minutes, or wherever I was at. Immediately, something said, "Do not tell your mother." Because the look on my face, it was obvious I was going to tell her what I just experienced. You hear me? So I didn't. Well, not at least for another 20 years later. Once I had an English teacher that, now that I think back on it, had that same familiar light. The only difference is I could only see it in his eyes and with his smile. But he told me I was a unique and excellent writer. I thought to myself while looking at my paper, like he must have me confused with another student. And this can't be my paper. But yep, it was mine. And as I looked up to the stardust particles, as I looked up to stare at dust particles, to figure out his calculations, that made him assume or tell me that I would be a great writer one day. And because he called my style of writing very conversational or something, I laughed even harder in my head. Smack in the middle of my mental laughter, something said, "What's so funny?" in a very calm, curious way. Moving on. I remember being 20 because my 21st birthday was very near. I don't know, like a couple days away. I don't remember that detail. I do remember I was moving into my father's house, or my father's mother's house, where he had just recently had to go back to live with. The first night I was instructed by him to sleep in the living room on the couch because all the extra rooms upstairs were full of junk and stuff everywhere. So I said, cool, no problem. I'll clean it out in the morning and make it mine. You ought to see my cleaning skills. While going to sleep with a grin on my face, so happy to be living with him again, he goes upstairs, but not very long, because him coming back down the stairs woke me up. Being raised with an only mother, or with just your mother, I was kind of put in a position to be the protector, so to speak. So I heard everything and I jumped to every noise. But there was no point in opening my eyes to look. I knew it was him. We were the only one there from my memory. But I wanted to pull the cover from over my eyes and my face, because that's how I slept, and look anyway. I really, really, really loved my stranger, only see every blue moon looking ass father, but I didn't care. He was my daddy. Well, here goes you know who. Mr. Something said. And what was said, I couldn't understand the logic, but most definitely heard the words, "Don't look, just play sleep." But this time the tone was different. It wasn't loud, soft, stern, or firm like I've heard it speak to me so many, many other times before. But immediately I felt sad. This overwhelming sadness come over me. So I decided to obey the suggestion, to just lay there and play sleep. The effects of what happened next had me living the next 17 years of my life not living on the inside. But on the outside, I was more than okay. People thought I was one of the most positive thinking, the most loving persons, the most hardest workingest, smiliest, jokingest, to make people laugh, looking ass tomboy type of woman. They didn't know. Deep down inside, I felt dead and wanted to die. And obviously this something said, being that's always saying something or making me feel emotions about how to respond, said something else. It said, I want to say a man, because it sounded like it was a man's voice. "It's okay, baby. I got you." It seemed at the same time I was being held. The funny part about this hug is I felt it in every single molecule, every part of my body. That's when I finally in the day realized who something said is. The Most High, whom dwells inside me. So who is your something is? Something told me is. Huh? As a matter of fact, it don't matter. My everything, my best friend / best of the best of all best, will let me know. I'm gonna go in and get some sleep. It's 6 a.m. on the dot, and it was 4 a.m. on the dot when something told me to start on your book. I remember thinking, I gotta go to work at 9:30 a.m. So I replied in my own mind, "Okay, I will start, but not now." so politely and sweetly and gently. Something said. You remember telling me while you was praying one night, crying and begging for me to show you something and reveal your instructions to me? You said you want to make money literally laying in the bed. There was no time for the Most High to repeat his instructions. I threw myself out of the bed to find anything to write on to at least start my book, not having one idea of what the subject was going to be about. So I found some paper and pen and turned on a lamp and laid in bed. Something said, let me scratch that. The Most High said, your title and subject is realizing who something told me is. The best part about it is actually not even a book like I thought I pictured writing years ago when I first said I want to write a book. It turned out to be a short story, but packing a mighty serious and important encyclopedia of information in such a so-called short story. Energy, love, being. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That was my first story or a little booklet I wrote, and I decided to put it on YouTube first just to share it with the world or whoever it gravitates towards. And it's non-fictional. It is true. It is from my heart, and I want to say I'm proud of myself for having the courage to let all of you know. Ain't we tired of saying something told me to do this, but I didn't, and this is that, what happened, and this and that? Realize who something is, and something told me is. If it takes today learning that. Alright, and something told me to say the end and take a sip. I love y'all. Peace.